want to introduce you to Sandy Dalziel now. Sandy has had a lifelong love affair with the bagpipes. He's been playing them and or learning them pretty much all of his adult life. In fact, that's what brought him to Australia, to teach bagpipes to students wanting to learn at Warwick's Scots College. Now he's gone out on his own and is teaching privately, but I caught up with him for a chat about a month ago to talk about how this started, a little bit about the instrument and some of the misconceptions around the bagpipes and whether they're easy or challenging to learn. Now, you teach this incredible instrument, the bagpipes. You've taught it for a long time. When you were a teacher at Warwick Scots College, you famously produced 65 to 70 pipers over the years. But who taught you and when?
I started to learn the bagpipes in 1973. Interestingly, it wasn't the instrument that initially sparked my enthusiasm as a 7-year-old.
Yep.
It was more the performance aspect, the uniform aspect, the excitement of seeing music being paraded.
Right.
So that's how what initially got me sparked interest. And luckily I had my family involved right back to the 1930s, involved with a local pipe band, and therefore my uncle was able to take on that enthusiasm as an 8-year-old, and the rest is history.
So he taught you, you were taught by your uncle?
I was taught by my uncle, that was closely followed up by my older cousin, who backed up my uncle's tuition. Gotcha. Initially. From there, I went to the leaders in the pipe band, who then took me further, and then I started going to workshops in Scotland to get taught by some of the finest pipers in Scotland.
Gotcha.
As an adult, I then went for further instruction to the home of the Army, the British Army bagpiping and drumming school in Edinburgh. I was able to do the traditional form of bagpipe music there called pibroch, and also light music. From there I was inspired to do the civilian courses through the Institute of Piping, which was a very exacting course done through the National Piping Centre in Scotland, and the basis of them examinations and certificates brought me to Australia.
Wow, that's a hell of a journey, isn't it? Which I guess suggests that you never really stop learning. Is it an instrument that you're still learning about now? Is it that sort of a process? Different people can teach you different things no matter how much you think you know.
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting point. Over the last 2 days, speaking to 2 students, one student has actually taught me some aspects of breathing exercises for bagpiping,
yep,
which is something I've got to be honest, I've never touched on before, but piping is all about relaxation. It's, in many ways, it's quite an unnatural instrument to put a bag under your arm,
yeah,
to put what they would call the chord aspect, the 3 drones on your shoulder, and then to put your fingers on a bagpipe chanter, doing different things. Whilst doing that, you're trying to blow and possibly march at the same time. So, yeah, to a large extent, it's very, very unnatural. So, to make it as natural as possible, what I certainly try and do is to make the student or myself, or through advice from students, to relax as much as possible,
yeah,
and that certainly brings out the best music.
It strikes me And I don't know much about bagpipes, although I just know that in the right setting with the right piece, it's just such an evocative instrument. But it strikes me that there are probably one or two, and you've touched on it there, one or two significant hurdles in the path of anyone who decides they want to learn to play the bagpipes. And you might be able to help me separate myth from reality with each of these. But
yes, certainly, yeah.
I think the first one would be that it notoriously seems like a formidably challenging instrument to learn to play well, and you've touched on it there. Is that true? Is it harder than it looks, easier than it looks, or about how it looks?
I would say it's about how it looks. The secret is to add on layers of complication gradually.
Okay.
So at first, to be perfectly honest, blowing is not an issue on what they call the practice chanter. That's the instrument you will blow and do the finger work on. It's the fingers, sorting out the fingers first, then introducing the blowing. From there, embellishments are introduced. That would be a next layer after basic scales. Then a basic tune. Following on from that, the next layer would be memory as well, which I haven't mentioned yet today.
No.
So these layers are not difficult as in individually. It's if they're instructed in the wrong order,
right?
Or
yes.
It's not obvious to the student what they should be doing at each stage. So I would say the bagpipes is very achievable. It just has to be laid out in the appropriate layers and then brought together. If you try to jump from 1 to 10, then certainly you're going to have issues. Okay. One of the myths, of course, is that the bagpipe is very strenuous as far as blowing.
Yes,
is concerned, Dave. But if I was to tell you that once you've actually mastered the bagpipe, you're actually using your arm more.
Right. Okay. To generate the airflow.
Yeah. So it's not blowing. It's actually, I like to refer to. I do when I'm judging as well, or when I'm taking student. It's bag pressure. It's about pressure producing vibration to make the reeds work.
Right, okay,
so rather than blowing and getting a red face and everything stopping or going downhill from there.
Yeah. So it's not, because again, I've heard people say, and obviously people who aren't aware of how it really works, that it employs like a circular breathing technique similar to the didgeridoo, but it's not like that at all. It just sounds that way because it's constant.
That's correct, and I think that is certainly an idea, if you like, or a myth that I've came across since I came to Australia. Obviously with the didgeridoo, but what we've actually got in the bag or in the blowpipe, we've actually got a valve.
Right.
So once we've blown in the air into the bag, then that air is trapped with a returning valve.
Right.
And then that air pressure with the arm joins in to produce the vibration of the reeds.
Right, okay, that makes sense, fair. The second one is that a set of bagpipes could cost you an arm and a leg. Is it an expensive instrument to play?
Is it an expensive instrument to play? First of all, there's so many bagpipes underneath people's beds. So if you can get a set of them, the trouble with that is making sure that a bagpipe is actually okay and up and running. A missing factor that I've found since I've been teaching in Australia is the fact that people are just not aware how to maintain a bagpipe. It has to be maintained very, very well. So if you're lucky to get a set of bagpipes from underneath a bed and either know somebody who can maintain them or maintain them yourself, that's certainly one way to go. I would say the price of bagpipes have dropped dramatically in recent years, from about the year 2000. The first bagpipe maker to produce the internal bores on computers came in, and that has revolutionised the price of bagpiping, in as much as reducing costs for the businesses.
Right, okay.
Because the instrument is made out of African blackwood, so there's less wastage at that end. And also for replacement parts for people as well, and overall manufacturing costs. Them three availabilities now through software have reduced.
Right.
I wouldn't like to say bagpipes are mass produced, in as much as you're getting a cheap product. You're certainly not. Every bagpipe today is just as good as and produced just as masterfully as any other instrument.
Right, okay. So there's got to be a certain amount of craftsmanship in, despite these advances in
that's correct. And I think it's important that and we all do remember the word craft and tradition, because yes, that's not to say there's bagpipes out there that are made 50, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, that are not good. They most certainly are, and produce very much individual music.
Right. Okay.
But them bagpipes, the owners more than likely know everything about the instrument and maintain it really well. But I would say for the person coming along, picking up a practice chanter and then developing through them learning layers onto the possibility of going onto a bagpipe, the route of getting a bagpipe produced by businesses which do it on computer mainly, it has to be a great advantage. One of the big advantages of that is that you will find, if you get a bagpipe from that background, will be that you'll get a lifetime guarantee.
Right. Okay.
With the instrument, and therefore, as I say, spare parts can be swapped across. It's not too easy to do that with an instrument that's 150 to 200. They've had a lot of masters working on producing them, and indeed sound terrific. But for the person starting off or whatever, I would say there's about 4 or 5 main producers of quality bagpipes in the world now,
right.
And they've all followed that computer system for producing the internal bores.
Gotcha.
Yes, individual work is done in the outside of the instrument, and whether the instrument costs $1,000 or whether the instrument costs $12,000, with a lot of these businesses, it's just a matter of adding decoration on the outside.
Right. Okay.
That's where the money costs.
That makes sense, definitely. The other myth is that if you take up the bagpipes, your neighbours will instantly revolt and start up a petition to have you run out of the street or something like that. Is it a difficult instrument for those around you until you achieve a certain level of competency, or is that in the eyes of the beholder?
I think, Dave, what we're actually doing is going back to the point of learning by layers. If we're doing that, then we're going from a practice chanter, which will not be heard by your neighbours.
Right, yes.
And we're going on to what you call affectionately a bagpipe goose, because it's the shape.
Right.
Goose. It's just the bag. It's not the drone, so you don't have the added complication of playing the 3 drones on your shoulder. Therefore, the music that you produce in that is likely to be more appealing, if you like, to your neighbour.
Yep.
So really, I suppose what I'm saying is by the time you get to the bagpipe, you should be proficient enough to play reasonably for your neighbour's appreciation.
That's perfect.
That's certainly the route I followed, and certainly the route I would promote. I think in today's society, whether it be bagpipes or anything else, we're in a rush to get anywhere quickly, and we're looking for instant success. If we're trying to achieve that on a bagpipe, that's probably not the route. That's probably not the route to go. But by introducing that bagpipe goose, I've found I can motivate the child of today in that step-by-step basis, and they get a far better return because they're producing something on the bagpipe chanter sound and the drone sound. They'll get the drones added on when they've achieved so many tunes by memory, for example. So them little stages should appeal to your neighbour, and your neighbour should
that's perfect. Yes,
hopefully join in on your learning journey. Just a little story from that. I went back to Scotland when I attended the Edinburgh Tattoo. I took students across. I took 5 students from Scots PGC College as part of a bigger band from Brisbane Boys College who were attending in 2022. I went back home to my mother and father's house in southwest Scotland, and I was speaking to my neighbour, who's still the same neighbour, who was there in 1973, and she said she was delighted to listen to me when I was young through the wall in the council house next door.
Oh, that's great.
And she did that for 10 years. And
fantastic. Yeah. And now she's saying, I knew him when.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
so when the Facebook post came out of me going home, she showed support on that. So
that's terrific. There you go. So she didn't run screaming. So
that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. My family's probably wishing I took up the bagpipes then instead of the drums, where you start being loud from the moment you're making mistakes to when you become vaguely proficient. They hear every last beat.
I would say that's more of a challenge.
Yes, absolutely.
I did a couple of health and safety checks on the initial tap of a snare drum and the sound of a bagpipe, and the sound of that one tap on the drum has a louder impact. Oh,
no doubt. Yes, absolutely. Maybe short and sharp, but it'll be up there in volume-wise, that's for sure. The bagpipes, Sandy, are so intrinsically tied to Scottish heritage that it would seem that you would have to educate yourself in some way on some of that history and culture to be able to play the instrument well. Is that almost a prerequisite, or are we making it sound too romantic?
I don't think we're making it sound so too romantic at all. Usually when a student comes to me, for example, there is either a heritage, but if it's not a direct heritage, an indirect heritage of Caledonia or Scotland, if you like.
Yep.
If it's not that, it's some emotive connection. I remember a young student coming to me once, and the young student himself was in year 3, and his mother wondered why he was crying, but it was down the town in Warwick during an Anzac parade, and the child just had that emotive connection, and obviously that was emotive to the parent as well, and thought, I have to do something for my child on this. And
fantastic.
I can tell you that student went on to be a very, very successful bagpiper.
That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think it is one of those instruments that there is so much more emotion around and so much more of a story around than, say, the flute or the trombone or something like that. It comes with its own atmosphere and its own history, and
The great Highland bagpipe, as you've touched on there, Dave, the instrument we're talking about, obviously there's various bagpipes or pipes throughout the world, but the great Highland bagpipe was construed in the Isle of Skye, suitable to the area, suitable to the song that existed at that time.
Yep.
1,800 years ago, and that song came from vocals, but also came from the harp, and various other instruments.
Right.
And music to the end of time, music has been formed to either reflect or to celebrate or to mourn or to give people encouragement. And so during that phase, when the bagpipe came along, those different emotions that was created through Scottish music were passed across to the bagpipe. So what you've got there is a very traditional, emotive feeling that people just can't quite place.
Yeah.
But
It's
that's what it.
Yeah,
that's where it's coming from.
they can't place it, but they can't deny it.
They can't deny it. It's
Yeah.
that heart. It's that soul music,
Yeah, yeah,
if you like, and that's very much transferred in the traditional form of bagpipe music, which is called pibroch, which means pipe playing, where you've got a themal ground, and then from that you'll add on variations, but within that form of bagpipe music, the traditional form of bagpipe music indeed, you will have tunes which celebrate parades.
yep,
You will have tunes that celebrate gatherings. You will have tunes that celebrate laments. You will have different forms of the music that will celebrate different aspects of community. And within that, themal patterns of notes have been formed, which really portray that mood, and that is then conveyed to the listener, or indeed to the player as well.
Yeah, yeah. You're now, and what attracted us to want to have another chat to you, Sandy, is that you're now offering lessons yourself, and you were telling me off air. I hope you don't mind me asking, but you're wanting to give everyone I guess expose the instrument to a wider audience and give more people the chance to play. Yeah, are the bagpipes having a moment at the moment in terms of, is it proving to be a popular instrument that a lot of people want to learn, or are you trying to create that situation and increase its popularity?
I was very much struck when I came to Australia of the popularity of piping. I did think, Dave, I may have to go that journey.
Yep.
Of promoting it, but I don't see that when I go to community events. Stanthorpe, Warwick, Allara, Toowoomba, the enthusiasm for learning the bagpipe, and I think you may have touched on it, learning something that is just slightly different, challenging, but very, very emotive. I think the allure of that has always been there, and I would see that continuing. I think what has to change, or what is the challenge, is to make sure it's still appealing to the youngsters of today through the learning techniques of that. I think that has to develop as society develops.
Yep.
And we did touch on in our previous conversation about the online methods of teaching.
Yes, yeah, and that's now at a stage technology's caught up that is a legitimate way to learn the bagpipes, is having your teacher perhaps in another town or something and learn online. That's a very real possibility and a real viable way to go about learning the instrument.
Yes, Dave, I think you used two words there. You used legitimate and you used viable. I think if you'd maybe went back 10 or 15 years, them options weren't so much legitimate or viable, because if I'm going back, we want to teach somebody properly.
Yes.
Therefore, them challenges that may seem too big for the youngster, or indeed the young adult, or the older adult, they're reduced very much, and they can see a a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's terrific. I have to ask, totally away from the bagpipes, what brings a native Scotsman, what brings you to want to move to the other side of the world? What was the impetus for that, for you?
I was in the British military in the Royal Air Force. I did a full career in there, and round about year 19 of my 22 years, I became a training and development coordinator. And apart from playing my bagpipes as a serious hobby, at the time I became very motivated and thoroughly enjoyed teaching and instructing people. That involved teamwork, or involved leadership training, visiting various units to do that with young servicemen, and also teaching things like health and safety, first aid, and promotion courses. So I became very interested in that, and it was that really took me, as I said, on that journey through the Army School of Bagpiping and Drumming in Edinburgh, then getting enthused to do my actual teaching certificates through the Institute of Piping in Glasgow. From that, it was a matter of sending my CV throughout the world, which I can say was predominantly done by post.
Right.
Because in 2004 and 2005, we were still
relying on the old methods.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And my dear wife was involved in the posting of them, so I've got her to thank very much for that. And indeed, as them returns started to come back by post and the odd email if it worked, I got an invitation from Scots PGC College.
Right, okay.
Their pipes and drums were going through hard times at the time, and I was able to come on the encouragement of my wife, who had visited Australia previously and said, it is a fabulous country, let's get on a plane and come. So we brought my 1-year-old daughter, my wife and myself came in June 2005.
Fantastic.
And picked up the pieces in Scots PGC College and took it from there.
How wonderful. Did you mean to stay as long as you've stayed?
No, I came initially for 3 months. I was going to go back and work offshore in health and safety,
right,
and in Aberdeen in the north of Scotland. But no, I was presented with a fortunate opportunity to take up a full-time position. I think it appealed to the college as well that I had a military background, in as much as there was still at that time a facet of cadets involved at Scots PGC College,
right.
And through my background in organisation and various things, I was able to bring programmes and a bit of order to the Scots PGC College from there.
Yep.
And from there take it out into the community. May I say, teamwork and leadership is a big thing for me. I still continue that through small workshops and individual. I integrate it almost without students realising that I'm doing it for something as simple as organising a music folder,
right,
having an index. I think these are important life skills. So I try and build these life skills into the piping journey. And I think if you look at ultimately, if you're taking children to play in a big event, my example for that would be taking my students to coincide with another pipes and drums at the Edinburgh Tattoo. Them life skills were very, very important on a daily basis, whether that means getting dressed on time, getting uniforms ready, getting music learnt on the previous 6 months.
Yep.
Them life skills were very, very important.
Amazing. One thing I didn't ask you that I should have earlier, and I'll slot this in, but you mentioned time and time again that memory is crucial for learning the bagpipes. But why so when you're playing off music presumably you can have your sheet music in front of you like any other instrument. Why is memory so important?
Because the pipes and drums is actually a marching force.
Right.
Not to get too military about it, but it's actually a marching ensemble. If you actually look at the physics of a bagpipe, and if you look back at the history of a bagpipe, where it was initially played in the Highlands of Scotland,
very windy,
or the physicality of mountains, or indeed if you want to take the traditions further and look at the World Wars when the bagpipe was played in the trenches, it is just not formed that a bagpipe is played with music. That's not to say, I'd like to eradicate the myth that bagpipers can't read music. We actually go, as I say, that one step further. We actually learn our own original music, learn all the embellishments, learn it in the tune format, and then memorise it, leave the music aside, and then play it. And that comes as a particular challenge if you think that you're learning what traditional music of Pibroch, and a Pibroch can last 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, my goodness, gee. But that's essential, and that's, I guess, one of the other hurdles of learning the instrument is training your memory to hold all of that music. And
again, Dave, you've just touched on that great life skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, indeed. As a final question, Sandy, the Edinburgh Tattoo, it's just been announced this week, is touring the world again, and it's coming to Australia and being performed in Brisbane, I think, early next year, February or March. As someone who said that they got into the bagpipes because of the spectacle of it and the pomp and the ceremony, does the Edinburgh Tattoo lose something, do you think, when it's held anywhere but at Edinburgh Castle? Can it only be a pale imitation if it's taken out of that setting, or is it spectacular anywhere? What are your thoughts on taking that sort of thing on the road?
I'm sure the organisers thought deeply about taking the Edinburgh Tattoo on the road, but I think they wouldn't have touched on that point of losing any spectacle at all. If you actually are fortunate enough to perform in the Edinburgh Tattoo, you are surrounded, Dave, by people of different nations, and Australia has got a throng of participants who go there dedicated every year, and I think that has to be remembered, and I'm sure it has been, and it's a great big honour, and thank you to Australia for such dedication over the years for the Edinburgh Tattoo to actually come here. The Edinburgh Tattoo in Australia and in Brisbane will be an absolutely fabulous spectacle, because it should be, because it's the same passion is here in Australia, whether that be from that little kid who's watching that spectacle for the same time, or whether it be from school children up to adults, up to grandparents who've perhaps got generations that came from Scotland or not.
Yep.
Indeed, I think Australia deserves to have the Edinburgh Tattoo in Brisbane, and everybody just support it, because Edinburgh Tattoo wishes to thank you.
That's fantastic. That's terrific. Such a pleasure to have a chat to you. If we whetted people's appetites, Sandy, I guess they can just Google your name, Sandy Dalziel, Dalziel, and they'll find your website and can make inquiries about learning to play this magnificent instrument off a master.
Thanks very much for having us, Dave, and everybody have a good day.